Hi, Ronnie Figueroa here, in my home office, and wanting to give one of these spontaneous words that I try to come out with without much preparation, and hoping that it'll do some good for people. Because I think one of the things that I think we all need to learn more and more is the more spontaneous way that we can communicate with each other in all various kinds of fields is the most important way I think that we will heal, not only individually, but as a society, as a family, and as a world. So, listen, what I want to speak about today is the aspect of parenting. And, I say that, as a parent who wasn't a very good parent. As a matter of fact, some might say I was a very bad parent. I was that parent that, because of overworking, drugs, alcohol, infidelity, you name it, with that kind of selfish ego, based on the insecurities and feeling that emptiness inside myself, that I wasn't a good parent to my children. At times I thought I was, and I'm sure I did some good things. But and one of the things parents need to understand is that the smallest of things can truly affect our children. It may not present itself right away, but a little tiny word of anger or frustration can affect a child. And if they hear that and see that on and on again, it's going to affect them even more so. And that's what occurred a lot in my home, in my household, with my maybe overbearing self at times, and with the drinking, especially that sort of thing. The kids seeing all these different kinds of arguments that would go on quite a bit between me and my exes. Coming from a home where they lived with my first ex-wife, and then when they separated, I took them, for myself when their mom moved away, and tried to raise them with my ex-wife. And again, with all of the stuff that I was dealing with my own internal stuff, self, my hurts, my traumas, my whatever. All these things were there, and it caused me to not be the greatest of parent. And I say it's caused me. It didn't cause me. I allowed it to cause me. And that's the way that we have to look at life. There's a lot of good rationales as to why we may have been this way or that way. Our parents did this to us, or I did this, or I was mentally unstable, which all those things apply to me, um, to such a degree that I was on disability for a while during these times where I should have and been able to communicate with my children. But I take responsibility for that. I take responsibility for it. The rationales are excuses, no matter how valid they may seem. It was mostly her fault, mostly his fault. That's not the point. We have to learn as parents, as people, as human beings, that whenever we go off, it's important for us to take responsibility for that. And if our little children are hearing this, they're going to pick it up real easy, easier than we can even imagine at times, the things that go in and out. So it's important to learn to have a balance in how we raise our children. I believe that I've learned that over a period of time. And people tell me that basically I'm a different person. And the reason why I believe that is because of learning how to look inside, to learn to heal from the inside out, as opposed to what most of us do is we try to intellectually, behaviorally, that's going to work best in anything else. Some of those approaches are really good, and they're really good in different kinds of circumstances. But programs such as cognitive behavioral therapies, talk therapy in and of itself, various kinds of other helps that are out there, some of the alternative things of neurolinguistic programming, EFT, EMDR, can be very effective. But we need to learn to have a balance that works in a universal way that you can have within you without knowing any of this stuff, because it's already available for us. It's been available throughout the centuries of how to do this. If you read ancient writings, you see the depth of knowledge of how cool it is, how modern it was then, and still is applicable today. So us learning how to truly tap into that will help prevent us from doing and saying and communicating in the ways that we have in the past. And that's the way for parents to look at how to help their children the most. These programs, yeah, get involved with them, but remember that the key thing is learning techniques that can have you look inside yourself. And I say that in different ways. Some of the trainings that I do involve the physical looking inside the self consciously, because the brain sometimes we need some kind of tangible way of doing something. The consciousness of us needs to get that feeling or absorption of what's really going on deeper inside of us. And then by practicing these things, it becomes more and more of a naturalistic process where sometimes we may think we're working at it harder, but working at it and it becomes natural in a sense and learning over a period of time. I hope people really get this, that there is that thing, that voice, that universal connection within us, that when we learn to be more vulnerable and trust that the words, learning to communicate from this place, will that much more so have us to be able to do things in a better way collectively, learning to speak the same language even if our words and understandings and perceptions are different, being vulnerable, being valid, being learning to be genuine, because you got to be that with all that you are. Learn to accept and bring in all your stuff and look at it. Looking at it, that's the synonymous word with being aware, being present and all that kind of stuff. And the more you do this, it just becomes more of a naturalistic thing that becomes just a part of what you are. You don't need to be some weird kind of person sitting on a rock and just meditating all day, or working so hard that you've got to make it do it this way and that way. It becomes more of a naturalistic thing where you see within yourself and dealing with your children, with dealing with people in general, that you begin to respond in a more balanced and way that's going to be good for them, good for your children, good for your life, good for your family constructs. So doing this is really important. Now, in looking at children, some of the things that they're going to pick up, they're going to pick up things that you do, even if you're in what's considered to be a very, very close-knit family. Everybody needs to expand. Everybody needs to grow. From within out is the better way. Overprotecting the children can be a problem, and not protecting them enough can be a problem. How are you going to know which is which? Well, by just trying to do the best you can, always. This trying is an excellent thing. Some people use this concept, oh, you can't try, you've got to believe, you've got to just do it. No. I believe, and I've seen with other people, the effort that you make in a way to do the best will help. But again, if your children are going through something and you're going through it with them and the confusion is there a lot of times, the being overwhelmed, and then you lash out, and then you and the spouse gets into it, and then you start building up these stacking all of these emotions and behaviors that affect the children, and they're going to basically mimic a lot of that, and it'll transform into their lives, and it'll keep growing into their lives. And as it transpires that way, they'll be basically living the same thing over and over again. You see this all the time. So things like, again, even divorce, right? And they're going to be affected by it. And again, when I say the learning parts, truth, that's another thing I want to make sure I don't forget to mention. So these extremes of taking care of too much and maybe not doing enough or just getting too frustrated, one of the things that's going to help the most is when you can look inside yourself and learn more of the truth that's in you, and then being able to speak these truths to your children. You don't necessarily want to beat them or anybody over the head with what you think is truth, but you want to, in as altruistic a way as possible, let children know what's going on when they're able to, accept it as they're growing up. And children can really pick up things at an early age. They should know at an early age, very young, 3, 4, 5, about if there's a split up, what that means in their way, and a way to explain it to them so that they can understand it and see that the parents can still communicate with that. Because no matter what, no matter how wonderful you can be in helping these children transition with all of this, it's still going to hurt them in some way, shape, or form, no matter how wonderfully it's done. That's just a reality. So you want to make it as helpful as possible so that as they're growing up, they can heal quicker from the conditionings and whatever's happened because of split ups. And the thing that parents need to hold on to is those truths need to be said in a way that you can look inside yourself and begin to do that. There's different kinds of courses that can teach you how to do that, and all of those, again, are absolutely necessary or needed. I won't say absolutely necessary, but needed in order to have a framework of how to do it more appropriately. But again, even if you don't have access to the books in the schools, which a lot of people do, depending on where they're from, in countries, in different places, but you can look inside yourself and know that I'm going to be gentle with my child, but I need to tell them that, we've broken up and we're going to try to work together. You may not see daddy or mommy as often as you would like to, but we're going to really try. And then they may cry, they may have different kinds of emotions, and you've got to be there to support them. One of the things, too, that both parents need to do while these things are going on, and there's been some suggestions and evidence that the need for both parents, it's so important to get out of your own head with your angers and resentments for what he did or what she did. And that's another word or term we'll get into, hopefully, and not forget, the aspect of forgiveness. You may remember things and you may not be able to be with somebody because of their behaviors, but we need to learn to truly, deeply forgive. So anyway, getting back to both parents having the responsibility to make sure that this child knows that both parents want to be there. If one has more issues, whether it be a parent like myself who was just pretty screwed up, I did some pretty screwed up things, but both parents, and I've seen this and I've helped other people understand this, that it's not just one who needs to be able to reach out. It's both parents making sure that that child is at least encouraged to communicate. Whether it's the estranged parent or whether it's the primary care parent, both need to be able to communicate with these children, either by speaking to themselves if they can't, and then a lot of times they just can't because it's just too volatile. Then having the child be able to contact the parent that might not contact them as much. It's as much of the responsibility as the primary care parent as the one who may have a more difficult time doing it. I believe that. And I can say, and maybe research wouldn't necessarily say as, important for both to do it, but the need for both to make that effort to have their children communicate with both is essential. Please hear that. Please get out of the resentments or the angers or the fears even, and being able to have, and there's different ways that can be done, if not directly with another relative, with a friend, having the child contact with the other person. And as long as that person isn't going to be physically abusive or emotionally abusive toward that child while they're communicating with each parent, then it's important that that occurs to some degree or another. So that's just something I need to throw out for people to understand. The other aspects that go along with it, and I'm not going to take a whole bunch of time to get into all of the different kinds of aspects of parenting, the different kinds of skills that you can develop. There are courses out there. You can communicate with me and I can give you more specific ideas of some of the behavioral approaches that you can manifest. But you're going to hear me say over and over again, even if I'm giving you that information, the importance to really heal within, look within for the answers that are within you, and then come up with something in concordance with some of the things that you're concretely learning or learning through your mental processes. So love, trust, forgiveness, which can be very difficult for people. And some of us can say, oh yeah, I forgive this person, I forgive this person. Please try to be really certain deep down inside that there is a forgiveness. Because if there truly is, then there should be over a period of time, unless one or both are just so angry with each other and haven't forgiven that you just can't do it. But even if one parent can forgive and the other parent can accept that forgiveness, it would be, and I know this sounds like, wait a minute, what do you think, I should put this on myself? I'm just asking you to look inside to see this, and I believe very strongly, universally, this is what we've heard in the whole spiritual realm, or the being able to help yourself. You hear this in things from people like different kinds of therapies would even say this. Viktor Frankl was one who really believed in this kind of thing. Nelson Mandela got the aspect of how important forgiveness is, and how important to understand that people are doing what they're doing mostly because of what they've learned, mostly because of what they've been conditioned by, and mostly because of their fears and their insecurities. And they can't look, too many of us can't look that deep to see that's the core. When we learn, and that's the key thing to do that, we're going to be able to take care of our children better. And so the children will learn from that more so than I think than the ABCs of what we need to do. That balance that we develop within ourselves and that we can give to our children. And again, a lot of times it's risk taking and the vulnerability that you need to have. And when I say vulnerability, people need to understand it doesn't mean, oh, that I have to just give in to whatever anybody says. It means making a stand in what you truly believe, even if it's against anything that I'm saying, but for you to still have that belief within yourself that this is what you believe, but being open enough to even have the idea that you could maybe be wrong in certain things. When we can all communicate this way, this is where a lot of the chaos and all of the battling will stop. Most of the times it's like, well, wait a minute, you're either on my side or you're not. And that's not what we want to look at. We want to look at, yeah, I believe I'm right. I want to hear your side, but I'll tell you what I think. And if we can't get along, then we can't get along. But I think if people learned how to communicate from this way, they'd be able to. And again, looking at children, in your communicating with them, no, no, mommy, no, 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 nah. What's the normal reaction? Frustration is going to build up, whatever, we don't know. Some of us learn how to bite our teeth and walk away and give it to the other parent, give the child, but give the responsibility of dealing with the child to the other parent. And those can be good and they can be effective. The better thing again, though, is learning and keep working on you to heal your anger, because if you're getting angry, it's still your issue. But they made me do it. No, they may have been a catalyst, the kid, but it's not them. And that's where you keep healing within yourself with various kinds of practices. Again, I can help people with that if you want to know about it. But it's learning to be there. And then if that child is doing it, you find yourself being less frustrated, less angry, less afraid to do what you need to do. And with that, learning to make that stand in your vulnerability, then you take risks in stepping out where maybe you're not really sure, but you take that risk. If it's coming across too aggressive, then that's not a good thing. If you find yourself able to be better, and that's what the evidence should be. There should be evidence over a shorter period of time where you see yourself responding differently to the child because you've been working so much in yourself. And then that no could be like, okay, because there does need to be, I think, some sort of consequences if a child is truly getting. You don't want to enable negative behavior over and over and over again. But those consequences need to be based on a love, on a wanting to help, even with frustration, even if the frustration is there. The mechanical nature of things you may need to do sometimes as you're working on yourself. Okay, you need to go take time out. We need to do this right now. Explaining to them along the way, if they keep fighting, okay, there could be the reward consequence kind of thing, but it shouldn't be all the time like that. It's not like some people believe, okay, I'm going to treat you like the dog. Every time you're good, I'll give you a reward. Every time you're bad, I'm going to make you sit or something. But there is the idea of having responsibility established. You know, some people, again, and that becomes an extreme. Oh, no, there's no consequence. There's no real consequences. We're only going to be on the positive. Just say, no, there has to be a balance. And there has to be this thing where you realize that you may not always be that happy. That's a part of reality. There is kind of an anger, if you want to call it that, or I'd rather call it just making a stand. And it might seem demonstrative. You might not know how to do it well. But again, that's where the working on me, I'm getting it, and that's a key part to say. I think I'm getting it even. I'm trying, and then taking that step. You're going to find yourself going up and down, and that's just in life anyway. We're going to have these ups and downs. But in dealing with your children, you may find that too. But you'll find yourself being less aggressive, less frustrated because you're continuing to work on yourself. And in the midst of this chaos of children, which it can be, you'll find yourself helping them in a more holistic and healthy kind of way. So that's another aspect, from divorce to how we can help, to dealing with them when the shit's really hitting the fan, and being able to deal with it in those things. You know, some people again have the great reasons. I have 10 jobs. I have 10 kids. I don't have time. I come home. I just want to rest. I can't do this. It's too much. If you work on you, it doesn't matter how. It's still an excuse. I'm sorry. Forgive me for being like this, but it's still an excuse. And we've got to get beyond that. And it wouldn't bother you so much, no matter how many jobs you have, to do better with these children, to do better with raising them, to do better with helping them and supporting them. If you really find a spark within you and do this more than anything else. Some people call it various kinds of things, from being self-actualized, you know, the psychological kind of relevance to it, to being to being whole with yourself, to being one with the universe, to having God within you, to find that thing. Whatever you want to call it, it is something that is the most important thing for us to learn, to hold on to, and to communicate with. That in and of itself will heal things with ourselves, with our children, and within the world more than anything else. And once you start to get that, who you are more and more, and people say sometimes, well, am I? I don't know. I don't know either, for sure. I know what I do. So, oh, you're a therapist, you're a counselor, you have a business here, you have a business helping children on the autism spectrum, you know, you have a bunch of people working with you and all this kind of stuff. And I say, well, that's not who I am. That's what I'm doing. If I were to try to say it in words right now, I'd look at it and say, I am a human being. I am a male human being with with what I believe I'll call a soul or universal life that's in me that we all need to learn again, that we need to hold on to more than anything else. In the core of that is who I truly am. I'm one with that, one with me, and learning more and more to understand that I'm one with everybody, because that's where the next level or evolution for all of us, with ourselves, with our children, to see how connected we are, not just because of the biological or because of the cultural being with them all the time, but that deeper connection. That's what you got to hold on to. And when the shit hits the fan a lot, holding on to that, how important that connection is, will help you. But that's got to be a constant 24/7 working on you to help that child to be able to heal from the wounds that will occur from divorces and arguments and all these things that will happen, from their conditionings that occur, and even the traumas that occur. Doing that now is what's going to help. And if you've screwed up a lot like I have, trying to reach out now, let them know that you still care for them. Because you can do that, and maybe they can't forgive, and that's just where they are. Maybe they can't heal because of the traumas that they're experiencing now and they have within their lives. I pray, though, that all people who are suffering now will heal by virtue of healing yourself, by virtue of learning how to truly forgive and opening your heart up to the other. Sometimes when the child is grown up, they might need to be able to say, in order to heal themselves and even maybe forgive or whatever. But even if not, if forgiveness isn't there, to look inside and to say what they're truly feeling. Trying not to be too aggressive or angry, but some of that aggression may come out. You hurt me. I'm really hurt by it, and I just needed to say this. I needed to get it out. You may be afraid because that parent may have been abusive and may still be. Don't do it up front then if you're concerned, but you might do it on the phone. You might write it in a letter. And it needs not to have so much to do with them changing. It has to do with what you're doing to be vulnerable and confront the hurts that you've had as a child, and then reaching out to the other. So parents, people, I hope some of this is making sense. We can talk about it more. I'm going to probably have this on my Facebook page. It'll be a YouTube channel that I do. They're not so professional. I realize that. Maybe someday somebody can help me do that. But for now, I'm just hoping that it can help people. And if it helps one person, that at least that's something. Um, you can contact me if you want through my website, which is ronholisticcounselor.com. And it'll take you to my other website too. You can find me in Psychology Today, Ronnie Figueroa. Um, you can you can contact me that way if you want, and we'll just see where we can take it from there. So I hope this has been helpful. It's like I've had a very busy day. I'm a little bit tired, but I just felt to do this right now, and hopefully it's been helpful. So take care, and I hope that we can all join together more so, and make this a better planet. Thank you for our children, for ourselves, and for the world.